So I'm Katie, the executive chef here at the Kenney. So today our teaching kitchen is going to be about apples. We're going to be making an apple crisp. Some of my favorite apples to cook with when it comes to making apple pies, apple crisp, apple cobblers are Granny Smiths or Brayburn apples. Brayburns and Granny Smith apples are a little bit more sour, and the flesh of them is very crunchy. They're more of a crunchy apple rather than a softer apple, and the balance of a little bit of the sourness and the sweet is really good for crisp and cobblers. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get our apples ready. The apples that we are using today are called Pink Lady apples. The skin is a little bit, the flesh is a little bit softer, but they're a little bit like a Fuji. When it comes to the flavor, a little sweet and a little tart. So we're going to cut these up. So I washed these apples, and what we're going to do is we're going to peel them. I don't like to leave the skin on when I'm doing cobblers or crisp or apple pie. Just the texture-wise, it's not very good. So just cut the ends off. And we're going to use about 4 apples for this recipe. And you use your peeler, and we're going to peel the apple. My grandma used to actually use a paring knife to peel apples, and she did everything with a paring knife. She would peel the apples, she would cut them into pieces, she would cut them into slices. That's how she did her apple pie. So I kind of usually like using a paring knife a little bit better, but you can use a peeler. A peeler is probably a lot safer than a paring knife, actually. So I'm going to peel the apples like this. So you can use an apple core, which is a round tool that will go in the middle of the apple and cut it out, but a quick way is to just cut around the apple. Make sure that you don't get any seeds in the apple, so the slices will look like this. And then if you have any bad pieces like this, you just cut it away. So you want to cut the apples in pretty good bite-sized pieces. Pieces probably about this size. For crisp, for apple pie, I would slice them probably about this thickness if you were doing an apple pie. So we're gonna take the apple pieces. You're gonna add them to your bowl. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some spices. I have a teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of ginger, a teaspoon of nutmeg, a pinch of salt, which sounds a little odd, but it actually enhances the flavor of the apple, and then only a half a teaspoon of allspice. I wouldn't recommend putting clove. Clove is really strong, and a little bit of it goes a long way. So I recommend just putting a little bit of allspice in there. So I'm going to sprinkle that in. And then I have half a cup of sugar, white sugar. I'm going to put that in. And then I have 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. We're going to add that. The cornstarch is going to help thicken the apples. I don't really like to cook the filling for apple crisp or cobblers or anything like that because I like to have it be a little crunchy and a little soft. So just think of pasta. So it's an al dente type of consistency. And then I have 2 tablespoons of vanilla, which I think is very important. So I add that to the mixture. And we're going to toss it. We're going to toss this and let it sit for probably about 5 minutes. We're going to let this sit while we make the topping for our crisp. And what is going to happen is that the juices are going to come out of the apples a little bit. And when you bake it, it actually thickens up. It's a trick that my grandma used to do too. She would either put flour or cornstarch on her apples. Now we're going to make the topping for the crisp. There's Different toppings you can do. A cobbler is actually like a biscuit topping. A crisp actually has half a cup of flour, 2 cups of oats, and then I like to add brown sugar. So I have a half cup of brown sugar. I like brown sugar with apples. It kind of gives a little bit more of a caramelized flavor. So we're gonna add that. And then I like to add a little bit of cinnamon to my topping. So we're gonna add about a teaspoon of cinnamon. Just sprinkle that in. And we have half a cup of cold butter. It's really important that you use cold butter. It's kind of, it's a little similar to the teaching kitchen I did for strawberry shortcake. So we're gonna take our cheese grater and we're gonna take our butter and we're going to grate it like cheese. So you grate your butter into your bowl and it ends up looking like cheese. So just keep grating. And the reason you do this is because you want everything to be about the same size. You can cut this with a knife by hand. It's just a little time consuming. If you do, you would want to cut it fairly small. So this just saves you time and it's a lot faster. So just keep putting the butter. And you want to make sure that it's cold. If this is soft at all, it's also not very safe. You could slip and cut your finger on the cheese grater too if the butter was too warm. So we add the butter. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the topping, and you want to act like you're playing in sand or something, and you break it up. And when you do this, make your fingers do this kind of movement so everything gets incorporated. When it comes to the oats, you can use instant oatmeal, you can use old-fashioned oats, you can use any kind of oatmeal that you want to use. I sometimes like to think that a crisp is almost like a oatmeal cookie on top of apples, so it's a good combination. You're going to start getting like really small pieces, and that's what you want. You don't want very large pieces of butter or things stuck together. You want it to be pretty fine, so it'll bake evenly, like this consistency. So it's going to be a little kind of like gravel or a little rocky kind of consistency. So you take that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to serve the crisp in a ceramic boat. You can do this, you can make this in a pan if you want to, but presentation-wise, I think it's better. So you want to spray this really well with pan coating. And this recipe makes about 4 ramekins. So presentation-wise, this is really nice. So you take your apples, and a little bit of the juices came out. As you can see, it's a little bit more shiny than it was before. So we're going to take our apples and put it in the ramekin. Probably about a third of a cup of the apples. So you press them down a little bit. And then we're going to take our crisp topping, and you want to sprinkle on top, but then press it down a little bit so it makes like a really nice crust on top. So you're going to sprinkle it on top. Making sure that you get the complete top of the ceramic boat. And you press it down a little bit. And the finished product should look like this when you're done. And you bake this at 350 for about 20 to 25 minutes until it's bubbly and golden brown. When it's done, the finished product will look like this. So this is what it looks like when it's done. The serving suggestion for this, and this is like my favorite way to serve this, is to serve it with ice cream. So I have vanilla ice cream. You let it soften a little bit. And then take a scoop. And I serve this room temperature. I wouldn't refrigerate this at all. It won't make it as crispy. And then as an extra little decoration and flavor, I put caramel sauce on top. So So there you have it. We have apple crisp with vanilla ice cream and caramel sauce. There you go.